The void between stars was never silent. Even in the emptiness, echoes of distant signals and the hum of traveling vessels whispered across the darkness. On this particular night in the galactic calendar, that silence broke with the arrival of something vast, an armada. The Zorathian Empire had moved at last. From the blackness, warships emerged one by one, each a floating fortress of metal and firepower. They stretched for kilometers, plated in armor that had deflected countless barrages in past conquests. There were carriers bristling with smaller craft, cruisers lined with beam cannons, and command ships that radiated authority like suns. The fleet dwarfed anything Earth had ever imagined in its skies. At the heart of the formation was the flagship Imperial Radiance, a colossal spear of metal that glowed faintly with crimson light. Within its command chamber, the High Marshal of the Empire studied the planet that spun peacefully in the distance. Primitive, he said, his voice carrying both certainty and disdain. A garden world, untouched, unprepared. They will kneel, in moments. Around him, officers nodded without question. To them, this was routine. The Empire had absorbed countless civilizations into its dominion, and each invasion had unfolded the same way: intimidation, bombardment, surrender. The thought that Earth might resist seriously was laughable. Still, there was something unusual about this blue world. Its surface shimmered with oceans larger than any the officers had seen. Its cities, though faint compared to the vast arcologies of Empire worlds, pulsed with light and energy. One younger officer frowned as data streams poured across his console. "Marshal," he said hesitantly, "the planet is more developed than we projected. Their satellite network is extensive, and I detect unusual energy fluctuations across their continents." The Marshal dismissed him with a wave of his clawed hand. "A child's toys. Let them build their networks. It will not stop us." The Armada began to spread into formation. Like hunters circling prey, the ships aligned their weapons toward Earth. Cruisers powered up their cannons, carriers opened their bays, and squadrons of fighters swarmed outward. The night sky above Earth would soon blaze with unnatural light. Far below, on the surface of the planet, humanity watched. In observatories and military command centers, alarms sounded as the fleet entered range. Screens filled with impossible images. Hundreds of warships drifting like mountains in orbit, their silhouettes blotting out stars. News agencies scrambled to broadcast updates, their anchors struggling to keep their voices steady. Civilians gathered in public squares, staring at the sky with fear and awe. For generations, humanity had wondered if it was alone. That question had been answered, not with peaceful contact, but with the looming shadow of conquest. Yet in hidden bunkers and classified facilities, there was no panic. Instead, a different kind of silence filled the air, measured, tense, waiting. On the coast of a quiet island, an underground chamber hummed as ancient generators rumbled to life. Beneath mountains, sealed vaults stirred as mechanisms long dormant began their sequences. Across deserts and cities alike, signals pulsed through encrypted channels carrying coded instructions. Humanity's response had already begun. Back in orbit, the High Marshal raised a hand. His voice was calm, as if he were about to extinguish a candle. "Prepare the broadcast," he commanded. A moment later, every frequency around Earth filled with a single message. "People of Earth, you stand before the Zorathian Empire. Surrender your world, your resources, and your loyalty, and you will be spared. Resist, and your cities will fall. You have 1 hour." The ultimatum echoed across the planet. On the surface, fear deepened. Families clutched one another, governments scrambled to decide how to respond, and the galaxy watched in expectation of swift surrender. But deep in the heart of Earth's hidden command, a single phrase appeared across secure channels. "Phase 1, initiate." And so the stage was set. The Empire believed victory inevitable. Humanity knew the invasion would come. And in the vast stillness of space, the countdown to the impossible began. The first images of the fleet raced around the world faster than light ever could. Satellites captured grainy silhouettes of massive warships sliding into orbit, their outlines sharp against the glow of the moon. News broadcasts cut into every channel, repeating the same haunting words. Earth is not alone. An alien armada has arrived. In living rooms, cafes, and crowded streets, billions of eyes turned toward the sky. Some expected fire to rain down immediately. Others whispered in disbelief, clinging to the hope it was some elaborate hoax. Yet as shadows passed across the stars and signals filled every device, the truth became undeniable. Humanity's long question, "Are we alone?" had been answered, not with a whisper, but with a roar. Inside the Situation Room beneath Washington, heads of state, generals, and scientists huddled around massive screens. The atmosphere was thick with dread. "They have hundreds of ships," one advisor said, his voice trembling. "Each larger than our greatest carriers. Their energy readings are off the charts." A general leaned forward, eyes grim. "If they open fire, our defenses won't last 10 minutes. Nuclear stockpiles won't even scratch them." Around the table, silence fell. For the first time in generations, every nation of Earth faced the same threat. Old rivalries seemed trivial in the face of a force that could blot out the skies. Yet amid the fear, a different conversation unfolded in secure channels beneath the surface. Far beneath the Swiss Alps, in a chamber shielded by layers of rock, the global defense network activated. A wall of screens lit up, displaying data streams that ordinary governments never knew existed. Engineers worked feverishly as encrypted communications bounced across underground relays. "Confirming full activation," one officer reported. "All black site systems are online." The director of the facility, a calm woman with silver hair and steady eyes, nodded. "Good. The time we trained for has come. Humanity will not bow." Decades ago, whispers of extraterrestrial contact had reached the scientific community. Strange anomalies in deep space signals, unexplained atmospheric events, and fragments of technology recovered from meteorites had raised quiet alarms. A coalition of visionaries and leaders had agreed on a dangerous gamble. Prepare in secret for the day when the stars brought not wonder, but war. Now, the results of that gamble stirred awake. Across the globe, ordinary citizens stared at the sky in fear, unaware that hidden guardians were already moving. In a desert in Nevada, a disguised observatory opened like a flower, revealing a vast rail system buried beneath the sand. Its coils pulsed with electric energy, drawing power from the very planet itself. In the forests of Siberia, what looked like abandoned mines lit up from within. Vast hangars stirred, revealing sleek aircraft with designs unknown to the public. Even in orbit, among satellites long thought to be weather monitors, something stirred. Panels unfolded, sensors rotated, and silent lenses turned toward the Armada. The world above saw only panic. But beneath the surface, Earth was preparing. Meanwhile, on the Imperial Radiance, the High Marshal observed the planet with quiet amusement. "No response," he muttered. Just as expected, their fear binds them. His officers laughed. To them, Earth's silence was weakness, proof that surrender was inevitable. But deep below the planet's surface, a signal pulsed across secure lines, simple and steady. Phase 2. Observe. On Earth's streets, chaos mixed with strange. Resolve. Some prayed. Some shouted in anger. Others held their families close and waited for what would come. The invasion was not yet upon them, but the weight of inevitability pressed down on every soul. And yet, behind locked doors and sealed bunkers, scientists, soldiers, and visionaries knew the truth. The Empire had miscalculated. Humanity was not passive prey. The years of quiet preparation, the sacrifices made in silence, had built something extraordinary. All that remained was timing. As the hourglass of the ultimatum trickled down, Earth's skies glimmered with the cold light of the fleet. And hidden within the planet's heart, humanity waited, ready to reveal what it had become. The countdown neared its end. In orbit, the Zorathian fleet loomed like a wall of metal, its shadow stretching across continents. On Earth, every news station carried the same image, a ring of warships blotting out the stars. And then, the sky spoke. The Imperial radiance sent its broadcast across every frequency, every screen, every speaker. The voice was deep, resonant, and dripping with authority. "People of Earth," the High Marshal declared, "you stand before the Zorathian Empire. You will surrender your cities, your resources, and your obedience. Do this, and you may live under our protection. Resist, and your world will be reduced to ash. Choose wisely. You have 1 hour." The ultimatum struck the planet like a hammer. Billions listened in silence, some trembling, some furious, some numb with disbelief. The streets of every major city filled with voices, protests, prayers, desperate cries. In homes, families clutched each other, wondering if this was the last sunrise they would ever see. Governments convened emergency sessions. Diplomats argued furiously over possible responses. Some urged negotiation, hoping to preserve humanity by buying time. Others demanded immediate retaliation, despite knowing Earth's known weapons could do nothing against such a fleet. But while the surface world fractured in fear, the hidden networks moved with precision. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the command hub of the global defense network buzzed with quiet activity. Massive screens displayed streams of data as the alien broadcast was analyzed frame by frame. Technicians measured signal strength, carrier frequency, and subtle distortions in the transmission. "They wanted us to feel powerless," one analyst remarked, blanketing every channel, forcing the entire planet to hear them. The director stood at the center of the room, calm and steady. "Then let them believe we are powerless. Keep silent. Observe their patterns." On her command, Earth's secret systems activated quietly. Long-range sensors tracked every ship's trajectory. Algorithms analyzed the Empire's formations, comparing them to battle records secretly collected from alien signals intercepted over decades. Weaknesses, no matter how small, were being cataloged. Across the world, humanity's hidden arsenal stirred another step forward. Meanwhile, in orbit, the High Marshal waited for Earth's reply. "Still no response?" he asked, narrowing his eyes at the planet below. "None, Marshal," an officer confirmed. "They remain silent. It is fear. They are paralyzed." The Marshal allowed himself a smile. "Good. Let them tremble. When the hour ends, their surrender will be swift." Yet, in the back of his mind, something nagged. The planet's silence was unusual. Most species screamed in protest or begged for mercy. Rarely did a world say nothing at all, but he dismissed the thought. Earth was primitive. There was no reason to expect anything more. On Earth's surface, however, silence was not weakness. It was preparation. In a vast facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, engineers in dark uniforms worked feverishly around colossal machines. Rows of glowing reactors hummed as they channeled unimaginable amounts of energy into containment fields. On the walls, status lights turned from red to green one by one. "System calibration complete," a technician called out. "Primary defense grid is fully charged." The commander of the facility nodded. "Maintain stealth protocols. Let them believe we are blind until the first strike." Similar reports echoed across hidden bases in every corner of the world. Rail cannons hidden beneath deserts, drone swarms waiting in mountain silos, orbital defense satellites masked as weather probes, all were primed. Humanity was not rushing to respond because the response had been written long before this day arrived. As the countdown ticked closer to its final minutes, the surface of Earth seemed outwardly unchanged. Citizens panicked, leaders argued, and the sky remained full of alien shadows. But beneath that surface, something extraordinary had awakened. The Empire had demanded surrender, but Earth had chosen silence, not out of fear, but because humanity had no intention of kneeling, and in the control rooms buried deep in stone and ocean, a single phrase spread across encrypted networks. Phase 3. Prepare to engage. The moment of first contact had come. The Empire believed Earth was helpless. Prey. Humanity knew it was the predator waiting for the perfect strike. The hour of silence passed. From orbit, the Zorathian fleet waited for Earth's reply, yet none came. The planet remained defiant in its quiet, its leaders refusing to acknowledge. The ultimatum. High Marshal Krith of the Imperial Radiance leaned forward in his command chair. His scaled hand tapped the armrest with faint irritation. "They are not screaming," he muttered. "Not begging. Curious." His second-in-command, a tall officer with a jagged crest across his brow, bowed low. "Perhaps they are simply too terrified to speak. Shall we proceed with the demonstration strike?" The Marshal's eyes narrowed on the blue-green sphere below. "Yes, one city. Nothing more. Let the fire remind them what disobedience costs." Orders rippled through the fleet. Cruisers shifted position, their weapons charging with pulses of brilliant energy. The Zorathian method of conquest was simple. Burn one settlement, and the rest of the planet would kneel. Yet on Earth, unseen, eyes were already watching. Beneath the Nevada desert, a control center thrummed with energy. Engineers and soldiers stood at consoles, their faces lit by the glow of vast tactical displays. "Alien vessel powering primary weapons," one officer reported. "Target trajectory suggests Los Angeles." A hush fell across the chamber. Millions of lives hung on a decision that would be made in seconds. The commander of the facility, a stern woman with short-cropped hair, raised her voice. "Activate the Aegis network." At once, the desert floor above them shuddered. What had appeared for decades as a barren stretch of sand split apart, revealing colossal rail towers buried beneath. Each tower rose into the sky with mechanical precision, humming with stored power drawn directly from Earth's hidden energy reserves. High above, satellites once believed to be outdated weather instruments flared to life. Their panels unfolded, forming geometric arrays that linked together in orbit. Invisible lines of energy snapped into place between them, forming a lattice of shimmering force around the planet. The Aegis network, a planetary defense shield built in silence over half a century, was awake. In orbit, the Zorathian cruiser released its first strike. A beam of incandescent plasma lanced downward toward Earth, brilliant enough to outshine the sun for an instant. But as it neared the atmosphere, the sky itself rippled. The beam struck an unseen barrier and scattered into harmless fragments of light. The air shimmered as though a curtain had been drawn across the heavens, reflecting the fury of an empire. On Earth's surface, crowds watched in awe as the sky bloomed with radiant light, not destruction. Fear turned to astonishment. Whispers rippled through the masses. "We're fighting back. We're protected." In orbit, silence gripped the bridge of the Imperial Radiance. The Marshal's crest stiffened. "What is this?" "Marshal." An officer stammered. "The beam was nullified, reflected. Their world has shielding." The Marshal's jaw tightened. "Impossible. No primitive world has ever..." But even as he spoke, new signals burst across his sensors. Earth's skies lit up with streaks of movement. Missiles launching from hidden silos, drones rising from mountain bases, orbital satellites unfolding weapons that had slept in disguise. Humanity's hidden arsenal had been revealed. In the forests of Siberia, hangar doors cracked open to reveal sleek aircraft lined with angular plating and pulse engines. They shot into the sky faster than any jet ever admitted to the public. Their wings glowed with energy weapons designed from decades of clandestine research. In the Atlantic, a disguised oil platform split apart, revealing a launch bay beneath the waves. From its depths rose a submarine larger than any ever known, bristling with launch systems that hummed with quiet menace. Even in low orbit, civilian satellites transformed into weapons platforms, their true purpose hidden for decades, until this very day. Panic rippled through the Zorathian fleet. "Marshal, we are detecting hundreds of launches," an officer cried. "Unknown craft approaching. Their trajectories, precise, coordinated." The BA Marshal slammed a fist against his console. "This world has been preparing. But no matter, primitive tools cannot match Imperial firepower. Crush them!" Yet beneath his confidence, unease stirred. The humans had hidden an arsenal vast enough to rival minor empires. And worse, they had waited. They had not panicked, not begged. They had chosen the perfect moment to strike back. In the bunkers and control rooms of Earth, a single phrase echoed across encrypted lines. Phase 4. Engage. The war for Earth had begun. The first exchange between Earth and the Zorathian Empire unfolded in silence across the void of space. From orbit, the alien fleet unleashed volleys of plasma fire, streaks of white-hot energy tearing toward the blue-green planet below. Yet, again and again, the beams struck the shimmering veil of the Aegis network, scattering into bursts of harmless radiance. On Earth's surface, crowds stood in the streets, necks craned skyward. Where they had braced for annihilation, they now witnessed something unimaginable. Alien firepower broken like waves against a shield. Gasps turned to cheers. For the first time, fear loosened its grip on billions of hearts. Humanity was not defenseless. From the command hub deep beneath the Rockies, the director of the Global Defense Network gave her order. Release the interceptors. Across the world, hidden silos cracked open. Sleek, needle-like craft shot skyward, each one a hybrid of human engineering and alien-inspired technology salvaged in secret. They were small compared to the Empire's cruisers, but they were fast. Too fast for Zorathian targeting systems accustomed to lumbering prey. In orbit, alarms erupted across the alien fleet. "Marshal!" an officer shouted. "Multiple launches! From the surface, hundreds of signatures inbound!" The High Marshal narrowed his eyes. "Counter with drones. Deploy screens. Do not let those insects breach the line." Swarms of Zorathian drones surged forward, their wings shimmering with plasma energy. They filled the void like a cloud of steel locusts, racing to intercept the incoming human craft. And then, the battle began in earnest. The first wave of human interceptors cut through the drone swarms with brutal efficiency. Miniaturized rail cannons fired slugs of metal at hypersonic velocity, each round tearing through alien hulls with kinetic force alone. Drone after drone burst into fragments, their wreckage scattering into the void. But the Empire was far from unprepared. Plasma bolts seared across space, striking several interceptors and reducing them to streaks of fire. Explosions lit the night skies, visible even from Earth's surface as faint sparks against the stars. In a cafe in Rio de Janeiro, people pointed upward at the glimmers of light. Someone whispered, "They're fighting up there. Our people, our ships." And for the first time in human history, the world knew not only fear of the stars, but pride. On the Imperial Radiance, High Marshal Krith clenched his jaw. "Resilient but reckless," he said coldly. "Their craft sting, but they cannot break us. Prepare the second volley. Target their shield generators. Once their veil collapses, the planet burns. But even as the Marshal prepared his killing blow, Earth's counterstroke escalated. From the Pacific Ocean, the disguised platform rose higher, its launch bays glowing. A weapon long hidden beneath the waves fired its first shot. A bolt of energy, pure and white, lanced upward with impossible speed. It struck a Zorathian cruiser amidships, piercing its hull clean through. For a heartbeat, the massive vessel drifted, silent. Then it erupted in a blossom of fire, fragments scattering across the void. On Earth, the explosion was visible with the naked eye. Gasps echoed across cities. One ship destroyed. Proof that the invaders could bleed. The world roared in defiance. Back, in orbit, chaos rippled through the fleet. Officers scrambled at their stations. "Marshal, one of our cruisers is gone. Unknown surface weapon. Our scans missed it." Krith's crest stiffened. He snarled. "Impossible! These primitives—" He cut himself short. No, not primitives. Prepared, waiting, a truth he had ignored now gnawed at him. Humanity had not been caught unaware. It had laid a trap, and the Empire had walked directly into it. On Earth, the encrypted signals spread once more. Phase 5. Attrition. The strategy was simple. Humanity could not outnumber the Empire, but it could bleed them, ship by ship, drone by drone, until arrogance became weakness. In the skies above, the invasion had begun. Not as the Empire intended, with Earth cowering under fire, but with humanity rising to meet them, revealing the teeth it had kept hidden for generations. And as the night lit with fire, a single thought rippled through billions of human hearts. We can win. The night sky was alive with fire. From orbit, burning fragments of drones and shattered ships rained, down like faint shooting stars. On Earth's surface, billions watched in stunned silence. The first hours of battle had not ended in humanity's extinction, but in survival, and even in victory. Yet the war was far from won. High Marshal Krith stood at the command dais of the Imperial Radiance, claws gripping the railing so tightly that the alloy groaned under the pressure. "They are organized," he admitted quietly, far more than intelligence suggested. This was no accidental resistance. They planned for us. His second-in-command bowed low. "Even so, Marshal, their fleet is small. Their technology crude compared to ours. Allow us to press harder. We will overwhelm them." The Marshal's eyes narrowed. "No, overconfidence is a weakness, and we have indulged it already. We will not underestimate them again." He raised his voice. "Deploy the hammer formations. Surround their craft. Drive them against the shield until they collapse." The Zorathian fleet shifted into brutal precision, massive cruisers converging like wolves around prey. But Earth had not revealed its full hand. Not yet. Beneath the Arctic ice, ancient hangar doors rumbled open for the first time in history. Out of the frozen cavern emerged a shape unlike any other, sleek, angular, bristling with weapon arrays that glowed faintly blue. The craft was longer than any aircraft carrier, yet it rose into the air with impossible grace. Its name was Dauntless, the first and only Earth-built orbital battleship. Conceived in secrecy, it had taken generations of hidden effort to complete. Until now, it had never been tested in combat. Dauntless reporting operational, came the calm voice of its captain over the encrypted global channel. All systems, green. We are prepared to engage. In orbit, the ship broke through the atmosphere and entered the void, its hull catching starlight like a blade unsheathed. The alien fleet immediately detected it. "Marshal!" an officer cried out. "New! Contact, massive human warship, larger than their others." Krith's eyes widened. "They built a battleship? On a single world?" Before his shock faded, The Dauntless fired. Twin lances of condensed plasma ripped across the void, striking a Zorathian destroyer head-on. The alien vessel, built to intimidate lesser civilizations, stood no chance. It split apart in two molten halves, fire blooming across its ruptured decks. Cheers erupted across Earth's control centers. In cities, millions of eyes locked onto streams of light streaking across the night. The unknown ship, their ship, was fighting back and winning. The Dauntless pressed forward, its rail batteries spitting slugs that punched clean through drone formations. Swarms that had once overwhelmed entire planets now broke apart under the assault. For the first time in centuries of conquest, the Zorathian fleet faltered. High Marshal Krith bared his fangs. Unacceptable. Focus all firepower on that ship. I want it torn apart! Dozens of cruisers turned as one, plasma cannons igniting. Blazing torrents of energy converged on the Dauntless. Inside its command deck, alarms wailed. "Shields holding, but barely," an officer shouted. The captain stood firm. "Return fire, full barrage." Every weapon aboard the Dauntless ignited at once. Rail slugs, plasma lances, and drone escorts erupted in a storm of retaliation. Zorathian ships buckled under the combined fury, their once impenetrable formations scattering like leaves in a storm. And in that storm, Earth's smaller interceptors darted in, exploiting the chaos. Working in tandem with the battleship, they struck engines, weapons arrays, and command modules. For every interceptor lost, 3 enemy drones fell. Humanity was no longer just surviving, it was striking back. Across the planet, the battle was broadcast live. Cities once drowning in despair now roared with defiance. Flags were raised. Voices shouted in the streets, and strangers embraced as they watched their defenders fight against the most powerful empire the stars had ever known. For the first time, the idea spread from whisper to conviction. Perhaps humanity could not only survive this war, but win it. On the Imperial Radiance, Krith's talons dug deep into the steel. The truth he had denied now stared him in the face. This world, he hissed. It was not waiting to be conquered, it was waiting to fight. On Earth, the encrypted order went out. Phase 6, Advance. The time for hiding was over. Humanity would not merely defend its home, it would take the war to the war. Empire. The battle in orbit raged on, a storm of light and fire circling Earth. Human interceptors darted through the void, the Dauntless carved through cruisers, and the Aegis network blazed with radiant strength. For a moment, it seemed as though humanity truly had the upper hand. But High Marshal Krith had not yet revealed the full might of his armada. On the bridge of the Imperial Radiance, his voice cut through the chaos. "Signal the command echelon. Release the Leviathans." A silence followed. Even his seasoned officers shifted uneasily at the order. The Leviathans were not standard warships. They were siege-class dreadnoughts, rarely deployed except to crack the fortresses of rival empires. And yet, from the depths of subspace, the air itself shimmered as colossal shapes emerged. 3 titanic vessels, each the size of floating cities, unfolded into reality. Their hulls were jagged and black, bristling with weapon arrays that glowed like molten suns. Every human commander watching their displays felt the same shiver of dread. The battle had just changed. On Earth's command network, voices overlapped in alarm. New contacts, massive energy signatures. They're bigger than anything we've ever seen, hundreds of times the mass of our largest carrier. Directing toward shield nexus points, they intend to shatter the Aegis. In the Rockies, the director of the Global Defense Network leaned forward. Divert all reserves, every drone, every missile, target those dreadnoughts. If the shield falls, Earth falls. Around the world, silos opened once more. Submerged platforms rose. Orbital platforms re-angled. Humanity threw everything it had at the approaching giants. Missiles streaked upward in fiery arcs, rail slugs thundered into the void, and drones swarmed like angry hornets. For a heartbeat, the Leviathans seemed engulfed in fire. And then the fire cleared. The dreadnoughts pressed on, their armor unmarred, their glowing cores pulsing brighter with each second. On the Dauntless, alarms wailed. "Those things shrugged off everything we threw at them," cried an officer. The captain's voice was grim. "Then we hit harder. Focus batteries on the lead Leviathan. All weapons fire." The battleship turned its fury upon the first of the giants. Rail rounds slammed against its armored plates. Plasma. Lances burned across its flanks. Explosions rippled, but the Leviathan's shields flared and held. In answer, its forward cannon ignited. A beam of raw energy wider than a city block roared outward. It smashed against the Dauntless's shield, hurling the massive ship backward through the void. Metal screamed, decks rattled, and officers clung to their stations as sparks rained down. "Shields collapsing," shouted a technician. "We can't take another hit like that." On Earth's surface, the Aegis network blazed as the Leviathans turned their fury on the planet itself. Their cannons struck the shield lattice, rippling across the sky in waves of light. For the first time, the shield trembled. In cities across the globe, people gasped as the heavens themselves seemed to shudder. Some fell to their knees, others cried out, but still, defiance held strong. The shield had not broken, not yet. Back on the Imperial Radiance, High Marshal Krith watched with cold satisfaction. See how their light flickers? Their shield weakens already. 1 more hour, perhaps, 2, and the veil will collapse. Then their world will kneel, as all worlds do. But even as he spoke, his sensors lit with new data. The Dauntless had stabilized, and behind it, more human forces were rallying. Craft, drones, and hidden weapons that had not yet been revealed. Humanity was wounded, yes. Pressed to the edge, yes. But not defeated. Not yet. In the command chamber beneath the Rockies, the director's voice rang out over the encrypted global channel. "All forces, prepare for coordinated strike. Target the Leviathans' cores. We've analyzed their energy signatures. If they overload, they'll collapse. It's our only chance. Across every vessel, every bunker, every launch bay, men and women braced for the order. This would not be a battle of attrition. It would be all or nothing." The words went out, steady and defiant. Phase 7. Break the giants. As the Leviathans bore down, Earth unleashed everything in one desperate gambit. Interceptors dove, missiles screamed, the Dauntless charged its main cannon. Even the shield lattice itself was reconfigured, not merely to defend, but to focus beams outward in retaliation. The void became a storm, and at the heart of it, humanity struck, not as prey fleeing before hunters, but as warriors determined to bring giants to their knees. The turning point had come. The void was ablaze with fire. The 3 Leviathans pressed forward, their cannons roaring with unstoppable force, their shadows blotting out the stars. Every strike against Earth's shield sent tremors through the planet's skies. The Aegis network glowed white-hot, straining under the relentless onslaught. Yet humanity did not break. From hidden bunkers, from orbital stations, from the decks of the Dauntless, voices rose in unison as the command echoed through encrypted channels. Phase 7 complete. Commence the core strike. All units, engage. The first wave of interceptors hurled themselves at the nearest Leviathan. Sleek and fragile compared to the monstrous dreadnought, they weaved through plasma fire, targeting the glowing seams along its flanks. Miniature rail slugs punctured armor plating, exposing faint glimmers of the energy core beneath. On Earth's surface, launch platforms fired their last reserves of missiles, streaks of flame arcing into the heavens. The projectiles found their marks, detonating against weakened plating, rocking the giant in place. Inside the Dauntless, the captain stood tall. "Main cannon, charged to maximum, lock on the core." The battleship's prow glowed with blinding intensity. Its plasma lance roared forth, spearing deep into the Leviathan's hull. For a heartbeat, the dreadnought's shields held. Then, with a soundless shudder, they shattered. The beam tore into the core. The Leviathan's heart pulsed wildly, then ruptured. The explosion was a sun born in the void, lighting the orbital battlefield for all to see. Cheers erupted across Earth, from villages to megacities. From the quietest farmhouse to the most crowded tower block, people screamed, wept, and embraced as the giant collapsed. For the first time in its long history, a Zorathian Leviathan had been destroyed, not by another empire, but by a single world. But the battle was not over. The two remaining dreadnoughts roared in fury, unleashing fire enough to boil oceans. The Aegis shield flickered dangerously, patches collapsing before surging back to life. On the Imperial Radiance, High Marshal Krith's composure cracked. His voice thundered through the command deck. "Destroy that battleship! Tear the veil from their world! Show these upstarts the futility of defiance!" Yet even as he bellowed, his officers exchanged uncertain glances. The invincible empire had bled, and the humans fought with a fury unlike anything they had ever seen. The battle surged. The Dauntless, its hull scarred and battered, pushed forward with Earth's surviving fleet. Interceptors flung themselves like arrows at the Leviathans, sacrificing themselves to open even the smallest cracks in their armor. One by one, Earth's weapons found purchase. Rail slugs split plating. Plasma beams burned through hulls, and missiles struck with pinpoint precision. Slowly, painfully, the second Leviathan faltered, its core overloaded, erupting in another colossal explosion. The shockwave rippled across the void, scattering drones and crippling nearby cruisers. Now only one giant remained. But the last Leviathan was the strongest. Its cannons burned through Earth's interceptors by the dozen. A beam struck the Dauntless, ripping deep scars along. It sighed, tearing entire decks away. "Critical damage!" cried an officer. "Hull breaches across 3 sections." The captain's voice did not waver. "Bring us closer. If this ship falls, it will fall taking that monster with it." The Dauntless surged forward, shields flickering, its weapons blazing with the last of their strength. At the same moment, Earth's ground-based platforms fired their final salvo. Hundreds of missiles streaked upward. The Aegis shield itself reconfigured one final time, focusing its entire lattice into a single searing beam. The combined strike hit the Leviathan's core dead on. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the giant convulsed, its systems collapsing. Its core erupted in a brilliant explosion that outshone all else. The last Leviathan was gone. The battlefield fell quiet. Where once an armada had blotted out the stars, only wreckage now drifted, burning slowly against the black. On Earth, silence gave way to jubilation. Entire cities roared with triumph. Families poured into streets. Across every nation, humanity stood taller than ever before. Against the mightiest empire in the stars, Earth had not only endured, it had triumphed. On the Imperial Radiance, high, Marshal Krith stood frozen. His armada lay in ruins, his Leviathans destroyed, his invincible reputation shattered by the very world he had scorned. At last, he whispered almost to himself, "This world is not prey. It is a predator." His ship turned, retreating into the void. For the first time in centuries, the Zorathian Empire had been forced to flee. Beneath the Rockies, the director of Earth's defense rose and addressed the global network. "People of Earth," she said, her voice carrying across every broadcast. "We have faced the storm and endured. We have stood against the greatest armada in the galaxy, and we prevailed. Today is not the end. Today is the beginning. We are no longer a hidden world. We are a power among the stars. And so, humanity's story entered a new chapter, not as a quiet species waiting in fear, but as guardians of their world, ready to stand against wall,